So what I meant to say when I said this doesn't sound exactly like what we commonly accept as go-go is that it's a faster tempo than what we usually associate with go-go. You do hear those other percussion instruments, but they're kind of still playing the more like typical Afro-Cuban rhythms that funk borrowed. And it's not too far out of the question to say like you could hear that in a lot of funk tunes. But it was Chuck Brown's first big hit. And if he wasn't already huge in D.C., it really kind of gave him leverage to pretty much write his own ticket into any club he wanted to play at. And that's where the music really grew up. That's where the music really started, was in the clubs. Now, to talk about the go-go beat and where it came from, some people say that, hey Bob, some people say that tune ripped off a drum beat from a Grover Washington tune. And I just want to kind of dispel that. Here's the tune that everyone talks about. It's a great tune. Does anyone recognize this tune? Yeah, it's a great tune. It's a classic. But if you read enough about the music about go-go, yes, they sound similar, but it's a funk beat. It's a funk beat. Go-go isn't just a funk beat. It's a certain feel, it's a certain beat, it's extra percussion, there's a certain way that the music is disseminated. Grover Washington says that, his drummer played those kind of beats growing up in church. And Chuck Brown said that, the beat that they used on Bustin' Loose probably came, his drummer was, grew up playing in church. So there's a common element in terms of where this, some of the beats came from the gospel tradition, that sort of thing. But to say that, to completely discount, the art form and say that, they ripped it off from the Grover Washington tune, I think is kind of silly. I want to read a quote. When I was interviewing Jim McFall's trombonist that played with Chuck, he wanted me to know some stuff about the music, but he also wanted me to know some stuff about Chuck as a person. And I think this is important. This is a quote from Jim. He said, working with Chuck was incredible. Every gig, clubs, concerts, recordings was a gas. I had great respect for Chuck, and what made working for him so hip was the fact that he had tremendous respect for the musicians in his band. As a result, he took very good care of us. He's an institution, and the hits with him were the most intense I've ever done playing commercial music. That's coming from a guy who's done like hundreds and hundreds of studio gigs. He's played with Baltimore Symphony Orchestra. He's done it all. So that's a pretty important endorsement. I think you can't really talk about go-go without talking about hip-hop, because it came up at the same time, and a lot of hip-hop bands were on the same record labels. Def Jam, Island, and Sugar Hill were on the same label with a lot of go-go groups. And there was definitely a lot of cross-pollination with the music. Now, of course, today we know hip-hop is a multi-gazillion-dollar industry. But back in the 80s, hip-hop and go-go were both struggling for the same thing, to be considered legitimate, because I think we all have heard about those Rolling Stone articles that talked about how hip-hop was just a phase and it was going to be dead, in a few years. Obviously not the case. But there's some pretty obvious examples of how this stuff showed up in a lot of hip-hop music. This is an early hip-hop tune that borrows from an Isaac Brothers song. This actually features Experience Unlimited as the backup band. That doesn't sound like go-go right away, but give it a second. Oh, you looking sweet, baby. Yes, indeed. Okay. We were born to dance, gonna shake it out, back to a funky beat. not only is that a go-go group, but she actually name drops go-go in there, right? If anybody here listen to Run DMC, say yes. Now this isn't a live drummer, but you know that these dudes are in go-go. So there was a lot of cross-pollination. A lot of these folks ran in the same circles, and really, when you think about it, you know, the two musics kind of came out of the same scene, the same sort of urban block party scene. It was party music. Chuck Brown even played the theme for the Sinbad TV show that was on the air for, what, 3 months? Anyway, so go-go had its chance, and for whatever reason, it never really attained anywhere near the same commercial success as hip-hop. We'll talk more about that later. Let's get into the handout. Now, the very second page of the handout is something that I was really kind of hesitant to put together. And so before we talk about this, you got to understand that you can't put any style of music on a piece of paper. When I see stuff like this, it always calls to mind, I don't know if some of you guys have seen this, but there's a famous YouTube video. It's not famous for the reason that it was made, of an Asian American gentleman who's demonstrating a keyboard. And one of the things he demonstrates is that you can make drum sounds on the keyboard. And some people are already nodding their heads. And there's a part where he starts to demonstrate how to play a basic rock beat. And so he's playing the hi-hat, or whatever, I forget what he's playing. And then he drops the kick and the snare in, and he's playing, and he looks at the camera very matter-of-factly and says, "This is rock and roll." That's not rock, that's a rock beat, right? I mean, all of us in this room that grew up listening to rock and roll music know that there's a little bit more to it than that. So, please don't think that by putting this on a piece of paper, I'm saying if you learn this, you'll be able to play every go-go song, okay? What this is, basically, is just sort of a distilling and, in some cases, a simplification of a whole bunch of variety of patterns that are played on the drum set, on the cowbells, on the congas. What's cool about a lot of go-go music is if you listen to it, sometimes the rhythm that's on the congas is reversed, or is played on 2 cowbells, or is played on 2 wood blocks. It's not always so much important which instruments it's played on as much as the textures are there and the feel is there.